Context: I'm a woman in my early 30s working in compliance/risk at a fintech. My fiancé Noah is a charming, nice guy who avoids hard things. His mom Elaine is the head of his fan club. I'm careful by nature. Rules make me feel safe. I grew up in a house where you did chores before cartoons and read the instructions before pressing the button. That stuck. It's why I ended up in compliance. My job is basically asking, what could go wrong? And then proving it before the damage happens. Noah and I met through friends. He's disarmingly likable, funny, generous with attention, great with strangers and waiters. He also lives in a permanent soft landing. If a bill was late, the website glitched. If a job soured, the manager had it out for me. I told myself we balanced each other. He loosened my shoulders. I kept us pointed at the right door. The first red flags were tiny and easy to laugh off. He borrowed one of my streaming passwords and then shared it with his sister. He asked for my mother's maiden name for a quiz, then joked that security questions are the worst invention. He suggested using my apartment as a delivery address because your building actually gets packages. When I pushed back, he made a hurt face and said, "You don't trust me?" I did trust him. I just also trusted patterns. We got engaged. I love planning, so I built a wedding budget like I was building a bridge. Tabs, notes, vendor shortlists, a column for nice to have versus must have. Noah and Elaine loved vision boards. They kept adding items that don't understand the word budget. Specialty cocktails with branded ice cubes, a drone photographer, linen upgrades because you can feel the difference. When I asked who would pay for the difference, Elaine said, "Weddings have a way of working out." Cool. So do overdrafts. Because of my job, I monitor my credit. One afternoon, I got a general bureau alert that my profile had changed. That happens, new address ping, soft inquiry, whatever. But then the mailbox situation got weird. I stopped receiving certain posts. A neighbor mentioned a hold had been placed on building mail for a couple of days for maintenance. I hadn't requested it. I ordered my full credit report. Credit report: new revolving account, issuer, bank, opening amount, mid four figures, authorized online access established, mailing address, secondary. The secondary address was not mine. It looked familiar in a bad way, Elaine Street. My stomach went cold. I didn't want to accuse anyone of anything I couldn't prove, so I did what I do at work. I documented. I called the issuer's fraud line and asked general questions. Not accusing, not leading, just, "I didn't open this. What do you see on your end?" The rep said, in plain language, that the application went through identity questions and a voice confirmation. Bank call log. Past knowledge-based authentication. Emergency contact name matches. Noah. The rep said delivery was completed to an address on file. I asked if they could read it to me. They couldn't, but they confirmed it wasn't my residence. I called my building and requested a copy of the mail hold notice that had paused delivery. The requester name line was blank, but the phone number on the form ended in the same 4 digits as Elaine's cell. Coincidence is real. Patterns are louder. I tried a soft approach with Noah because I wanted him to tell me I was wrong. I told him an alert popped up and I was clearing it. He shrugged and said credit bureaus always mess up, then pivoted to menu tasting. When I mentioned the secondary address, he said maybe it was a clerical error and we can fix it after the wedding. Elaine called later to say I was spiraling and that planning stress makes people paranoid. She used that word more than once. She also said, "If a card did show up here by mistake, I would obviously hand it to you," which is a sentence no one asked for. I put my feelings in a drawer and gathered more puzzle pieces. The issuer emailed a welcome notice to a new web profile tied to my email. I got the copy because of auto-forward rules I keep. Email excerpt. Online access enabled. For security, we may contact your emergency contact to verify identity. I had listed Noah as my emergency contact at the doctor's office and on a couple of HR forms. That's not meant to be a free backstage pass to your entire life, but if someone answers enough confident questions, first pet, elementary school, last 4 of your SSN, they can persuade a system that they're standing next to you. For anyone reading, This is why we tell people not to reuse security answers on social media, fun, quizzes. Meanwhile, wedding money had to move. Deposits were coming due. Vendors wanted signatures. At work, I just helped draft a policy that ties service continuation to certain ethical obligations. I borrowed the concept for my personal life. With a lawyer friend's input, I asked every vendor to sign a short addendum to their standard contract. A no-fraud/illegal activity clause. Something like, if either party reasonably confirms ongoing fraud or identity misuse connected to the event, services may be canceled immediately with no refund, and deposits may be applied to documented mitigation costs. It wasn't sneaky. It was a seatbelt. Most vendors didn't blink. They have their own horror stories and liked that I was willing to assume the same standard. A couple asked if this was normal. I said it should be. I also did something I never thought I'd do. I bought a cheap smart mailbox camera and aimed it at the slot inside my door, so if a courier slipped something through, I'd have a time-stamped clip of the envelope hitting the floor. A few days later, smart mailbox cam caught nothing. But the issuer's tracking portal showed delivered. I asked for the proof of delivery photo. Courier photo. A hand holding a white envelope in front of Elaine's decorative doormat that says, "Family is everything." I don't know who wrote the script for my life, but they need to dial it back. I took all of this to Jade, my best friend, who is allergic to drama and excellent at triage. She said, "Do not confront. People who do dumb financial crimes rely on volume and your feelings. Keep collecting. Don't tip them off." She also reminded me I'm not obligated to carry other people's secrets to term, so I didn't blow anything up. I went to cake tasting and nodded at floral samples and pretended to be very excited about napkin folds. At home, I scanned and labeled. Evidence index, credit report, bank call log, redacted, email excerpt, mail hold notice, courier photo, screen capture of secondary address, copy of my emergency contact forms with Noah's name, and a simple timeline. I spoke again with the issuer's fraud team, this time attaching the report and asking them to formally freeze the line pending investigation. They placed a temporary hold and told me to file a police report to generate an incident number so they could escalate. Filing that report would flip on stadium lights. I wasn't ready. I wanted one more chance to hear the truth from the person I was supposed to marry. I invited Noah to sit at the kitchen table, neutral territory, no raised voices. I said, "I'm going to ask you something hard. Please don't guess at what I want to hear. I already have paperwork." I asked whether he had opened a card in my name or helped someone do it. He blinked in that long way people do when all the words in their mouth are fighting. Then he laughed too loudly and said, "Babe, come on." He grabbed for my hands. I said, "I'm not your babe right now. I'm the person whose name is on a bill." He said, "If something got mixed up, we can fix it after the wedding. I already put deposits down and we can't lose them." He said that last part like he was reading a line Elaine fed him. Speaking of, Elaine called within the hour. I hadn't told her we talked. She opened with, "I know you had a little misunderstanding with Noah, and I want you to know we will handle it as a family after the big day." I said, "I'm not a we that way." She pivoted to guilt. "Vendors will be ruined if you pull a stunt." I asked what stunt. She said, "You know." And then, "You've always needed everything perfect." I looked at the courier photo on my phone, at the family is everything doormat, and said, "Not everything." I slept badly and decided. I sent a group email to vendors confirming our final headcounts and balances, and attached the signed no fraud addendum, again, with a polite note. If any party becomes aware of identity misuse related to this event, please refer to Section 7. I scheduled a meeting with a consumer law attorney who could help me draft a clean, factual police report if I chose to file. I also contacted the issuer's security team to let them know I'd be escalating shortly and asked them to preserve call audio. Then I waited for the rehearsal day, the point when most final payments trigger and when the clause, if invoked, would actually protect people's time and inventory. Some part of me still hoped Noah would sit down, own it, and we'd figure out how to acknowledge the harm and rebuild with honesty. The other part of me, the part that writes risk memos and lives in the unglamorous world where facts don't care about charisma, packed a folder, and charged my phone. Aita, if, based on the evidence I've gathered and the clause I had our vendors sign, I cancel the wedding at the rehearsal and file a fraud report, knowing deposits will be kept to cover the mess, and walk away from a family that thinks after the wedding is where ethics go to nap? Update 1. Context. I'm the compliance/risk person who found a new credit line in my name, with the courier photo showing my future MIL's doormat. I added a no fraud immediate cancellation/no refund clause to every wedding contract and asked Noah to come clean. He didn't. I treated this like a case file. Feelings in one folder, facts in another. When I kept them mixed, I started second-guessing myself. When I separated them, patterns got loud. First, I pulled everything into a tidy packet for the issuer security team. Evidence Index V2. A credit report showing the new revolving account. Online profile flagged, enabled. An email excerpt confirming online access established, and emergency contact may be used for verification. A bank call log notes. Knowledge-based questions passed, voice confirmation accepted, emergency contact on file, Noah. A mail hold notice from my building management. Requester phone matches Elaine's last 4 digits. The courier photo. Placing the envelope on Elaine's family is everything Matt. A smart mailbox cam from my unit. No delivery there during the time the issuer shows delivered. A secondary address screenshot on the account profile that isn't mine. I asked the issuer to preserve call recordings. The fraud investigator on the line, let's call him D, explained it in plain English. Lots of institutions let you clear step-up checks by naming facts about your life and confirming with a voice prompt. Emergency contact isn't the same as authorized user. But if that contact is sitting next to the applicant feeding answers, the system can be fooled. D placed a freeze on the account and escalated to their internal fraud unit. He also asked me to file a police report because his team needs an incident number to move the investigation into the we can share data with you lane. I told him I'd do it soon. Meanwhile, wedding stuff ticked on like a cheerful train headed for a broken bridge. I sent the no fraud addendum to any vendor who hadn't returned a countersignature yet. The venue manager called to ask if something had happened. I said I work in risk and, like seatbelts. He said he wished all couples did this. The caterer actually cheered. Turns out they'd been burned by a groom who used a stolen card once and had to eat the chargeback. The photographer hesitated. I've never signed anything like this. Then asked me to explain it like he's 5. I said, if I break the law or you break the law, either of us can pull out without refund. It protects both sides from being used as a laundering service. He signed. I tried one more gentle, direct ask with Noah. No hints, no emotional booby traps, just the test any adult should be able to pass. Did you open a line in my name or help someone do it? He did that slow blink, then went with charm. Babe, this is wedding stress. I said, this is a felony with confetti. He laughed and reached for my hands. I moved mine. He pivoted. Okay, if a card exists, it's obviously a mix-up. I'll fix it after the wedding. The deposits are non-refundable. There it was, the script. Protect the day, bury the deed. He didn't ask for details because asking would make the lie heavier. Elaine invited me over for tea. Her living room smelled like vanilla candle and boundary violations. She opened with flattery about how organized I am, then turned it into a cudgel. You're the perfect person to understand that sometimes systems make mistakes. She squeezed my knee like she owned it. I told her calmly that the system, right now, is me. She warned me not to humiliate the family by making a scene. I said the scene already happened. I'm just deciding whether to dim the lights or flip them on. Back at home, Jade played reality check. If he had even an inch of clean explanation, you'd have it by now, she said. You don't need him to confess to act. You need you to believe your file. She also pointed at the no fraud clause and said, this is your fire alarm. Don't wait until the smoke looks photogenic. I set practical steps. I placed a fraud alert with each bureau. I created a fresh set of security answers that aren't memes or public. I asked HR to remove Noah as my emergency contact. I moved a small emergency fund to a new account at a different institution with a separate email and phone alias. I emailed my building manager that no one, not a family member, not a fiancé, is authorized to request holds or pick up mail for me. Then I drafted the police report with a consumer law attorney so it would read like facts, not feelings. The report listed only what I could prove. The line exists. I didn't open it. Delivery proof is Elaine's address. My building hold wasn't authorized by me. The issuer confirmed voice verification and knowledge-based questions were passed. The only person with both my answers and proximity is Noah. My future MIL acknowledged mail at her address. The attorney said it was clean. He also cautioned me that family will call it dramatic. People who are used to soft consequences think clarity is cruelty, he said. Be boring. Boring wins. I told the issuer I'd be filing. D. Gave me a direct address to submit the incident number when I had it. He also offered to put a note on the account that any attempt to argue I had authorized the line must be accompanied by the original recordings. I didn't know you could ask for that. Now I do. Because the no fraud clause only matters if someone is willing to use it, I emailed vendors to confirm rehearsal times and final payments due. In the same message, I repeated without drama that our contracts include a standard of conduct. If we discover ongoing identity misuse, you're authorized to cancel and keep deposits per Section 7. I wrote. A couple of vendors replied with thumbs-up emojis. The venue manager replied with, understood. Hope we don't need it. Me too, honestly. I wanted to give Noah one last plank to grab. I printed a 2-page summary of the evidence, no bank account numbers, nothing that would violate my own privacy rules, and slid it across the counter while we were packing favor bags. This is your off-ramp, I said. No speeches, just the truth. He stared at the courier photo, then at me and said, it's not what it looks like. I answered, then tell me what it is. He said, a misunderstanding, and launched into a story about surprise points for a honeymoon upgrade that needed to be in one profile. The story died on its own halfway out of his mouth. He begged me not to punish the vendors for our fight. That line felt rehearsed. I slept with my phone on Do Not Disturb and my folder within reach. In the morning, I sent the police report online and got the incident number. I forwarded it to D. At the bank. I forwarded a redacted version to my lawyer and Jade. Then I went to my closet and pulled the box with my grandmother's veil off the shelf and sat with it a while. The part of me that still wants the simple version of this life. I put it back gently. Simple isn't the same as safe. So yes, I'm going to the rehearsal with a smile. And yes, I'll thank the vendors for their work. And if Noah doesn't choose the truth by the time the balance payments are due, I will invoke the clause, the venue will read Section 7, and the parade will stop where it stands. Deposits will stay where contracts say they stay, and those funds will turn into attorney retainers, bureau freezes, and whatever else it takes to unwind the damage. The wedding will not happen around a crime. If that makes me the villain in Elaine's version of events, fine. I'd rather be the villain in her story than the victim in mine. Update 2. Context. I compiled evidence that Noah opened a credit line in my name and routed mail to his mom Elaine. I added a no-fraud immediate cancellation / no refund clause to every wedding contract, filed a clean police report, froze the account, and gave Noah one last off-ramp. He chose word salad. Rehearsal day arrived. The venue looked like a promise. Candles in cylinders, chairs in neat rows, a floral arch that smelled like a movie. Vendors were doing that calm hustle professionals have when they've already solved 10 problems you never saw. I thanked everyone by name. I meant it. They deserved better than the scene that was coming. The plan wasn't dramatic. It was procedural. I would ask Noah one more time, privately, with the printed summary in my hand. If he told the truth, we would pause. If he lied again, I would signal the venue manager, who would open a folder labeled Section 7 and begin the cancellations in order. The clause wasn't a trap. It was a guardrail that only exists if you drive into it. Noah arrived with a grin too bright for the room. Elaine hovered at his shoulder like a stage mom who had notes for the director. He kissed my cheek. I stepped back. Can we talk? I asked. We stood behind the arch, invisible to most people, visible to the truth. I held the courier photo with Elaine's doormat and the credit report printout. Please don't make me say this 10 different ways, I said. Did you open a line in my name or help someone do it? He did the blink, then the sigh, then the soft voice. Babe, not today. It's either today or never, I said. I filed an incident report. The issuer froze the account. They preserved the call audio. They have the delivery photo. If there's an explanation that isn't fraud, say it now. He said, You're ruining our wedding. Noah, I said, and used the tone I save for risk meetings where someone wants to fly a helicopter through a thunderstorm. The wedding is already ruined. I'm deciding whether we burn down the vendor list with it. He reached for my hands. I kept mine at my sides. He looked over my shoulder toward Elaine like she was a teleprompter. Then he said a sentence that told me where the script came from. If a mistake happened, we can fix it after. I turned to the venue manager and nodded. He nodded back. Here's how invoking the clause actually looked. Not fireworks, not screaming. The manager gathered the team leaders, caterer, coordinator, photographer, and said, We're activating Section 7. He showed the addendum countersigned by both of us. He said, Per the clause, we cancel services with no refund due to reasonably confirmed fraud tied to the event. The caterer closed her laptop with a sympathetic wince. The coordinator started calling staff to stand down. The photographer lowered his camera and whispered, I'm sorry. I said, Me too. The room moved like a tide turning. Chairs stopped being straightened. The arch became just flowers. People sensed the shift before words caught up. Elaine clocked it first and came at me in a glide that read as gracious if you didn't speak the language of control. Honey, she said, let's not embarrass ourselves. We can talk this through as a family. As a family, you intercepted my mail, I said, still quiet. As a family, you can pay your own bills. She flinched at mail like it was a profanity. Of course things get misdelivered. I showed her the courier photo with her doormat. She swallowed, then leaned into pity. Don't do this to my son. I'm not doing anything to your son, I said. He did something to my name. Guests began to notice. You can feel confusion like weather. Someone asked if the rehearsal was moving outside. The coordinator, professional to the bone, told them there had been a change of plans and that the venue would follow up. Meanwhile, Noah finally tried anger on. Are you insane? You're stealing deposits. I'm enforcing the contract you signed, I said. Those deposits will cover the cost of undoing your choice. Everyone will think you're cruel, he said. Everyone who benefits from my silence already thinks clarity is cruelty, I said. They can adjust. He reached for my phone. I put it in my back pocket and stepped away. Do not touch me, I said. The room went still in that way rooms do right before people remember their witnesses. He froze, hands up, like he wanted credit for not making it worse. I found the venue manager and handed him a short letter my attorney helped draft. It referenced Contract Addendum Section 7, the incident number from the police report, and a list of vendors authorized to apply deposits to documented mitigation costs. He accepted it like a baton. The caterer hugged me in that quick, professional way that says, We have seen everything and we hate this one the most. The photographer asked if he could send me the few photos he'd snapped of the setup so I wouldn't have only rubble in my head. I said yes. Elaine tried one final rope. Think of the story you're creating. This will follow you. I looked at the arch that was no longer ours and said, If the story follows me, it will be because I signed my real name to it. I left before the part where bystanders pick sides. Jade was already in her car with the engine on like a getaway driver for ethical heists. At my apartment, we did the practical things. Changed the smart lock code, boxed Noah's belongings, took photos of the box contents, and put the boxes in the lobby with a text that said, Pick up by the end of the day. The front desk is informed. I emailed my building manager confirming no one other than me is authorized for mail decisions. I forwarded the police incident number to the issuer's fraud investigator, D, with the subject line, Escalation ready. He replied with a single line, Got it, moving to recovery, and a longer paragraph about next steps in human words, statement adjustments, inquiry suppression, and how their back office documents voice prints without me having to hear it. Noah texted a stream of messages that read like a group project gone off the rails. I was dramatic, heartless, selfish, then suddenly, please, we can fix this. Then a voice note that started with, you don't understand how hard things have been. I didn't respond. People who make chaos count on the person with the tidy folders to write the apology. Elaine posted something vague about a young woman who let paranoia destroy love, which Jade screenshotted, labeled exhibit. External pressure, and then told me to ignore. I ignored. My therapist calls that non-engagement. I call it not volunteering. That evening, the venue emailed a formal cancellation notice citing the clause and confirming deposits would be retained and applied to vendor time already spent, and to chargeback prevention. Apparently a thing they budget for when cards go sideways. Bless them. The photographer sent a small folder of photos of the space before anything shifted. It helped. Proof that the day was beautiful even if the reason was ugly. The next few days were logistics. Bureau alerts confirmed. Issuer notice. Account closed. Balance reversed pending investigation. Any misuse will be pursued against the responsible party. Consumer law attorney email. Happy to represent if they try to pin liability on you. Your file is strong. I also got a call from a detective who used short sentences and kind tone. He explained they would contact the people tied to the delivery address and the phone on the mail hold. He said, you'd be surprised how many cases start with "we're family" and end with "we're in court." I said I wouldn't. I returned my grandmother's veil to the box and wrote a short note for my future self. The one who might someday accuse this version of me of being too harsh. You didn't ruin anything. You refused to marry into fraud. That's not hard. It's clean. Am I the asshole for canceling the wedding at the rehearsal by invoking an anti-fraud clause and filing a police report when my fiancé and his mother intercepted my mail and used my identity? If your answer hangs on after the wedding, ask yourself who benefits from waiting. Final update. Context. I work in compliance. I discovered a credit line opened in my name, with delivery routed to my future MIL Elaine. I quietly added a no-fraud immediate cancellation / no refund clause to all wedding contracts, filed a police report, and, when Noah wouldn't tell the truth, invoked the clause at the rehearsal. Vendors canceled, deposits stayed, and I walked away. The morning after Section 7. My phone felt like a fire alarm left in a bag of spoons. I ignored the pings that wanted drama and answered the ones that needed facts. The issuer's investigator, D. called and spoke human instead of handbook. They'd pulled the application trail and the call audio. In plain words, someone answered knowledge-based questions about my life, then completed a voice confirmation step. Issuer memo summary. Application originated online. Identity proofing completed via Q&A. Follow-up call verified by voice. Delivery address. Elaine's residence. Device fingerprint matches prior activity associated with Noah's household. He stressed that none of this made me liable. If anything, the paper protected me. Their back office closed the account, reversed the activity, and flagged the device profile from being used on my identity again. He also told me they were referring the matter to their fraud recovery team and cooperating with the police. The detective assigned to my report called, too. He was careful and concise. They'd spoken with Elaine. She acknowledged receiving a piece of mail not addressed to her, and used sentences that begin with "I assumed," which is not a defense anyone should stitch on a pillow. They'd also reached Noah. His first version of events was the surprise honeymoon point story. When told the issuer had preserved audio and metadata, his version lost adjectives. The detective said, "We're not here to destroy a life. We're here to make the facts line up with the name that pays the bill." Translation. Tell the truth, fix what you broke. My parents called. Not my parents, Noah's parents. Elaine's voice had the soft focus of a rehearsal speech. Families weather storms, she said, like she was reading the summary of a movie where I was cast without consent. I said families don't use each other's identities as umbrellas. She pivoted to image control. There's no need to involve police. Employers see these things. I told her that the point of consequences is that they exist. She hung up after saying she forgave me. For what, she didn't say. Noah tried every channel at once. The texts rolled from outrage to apologies to negotiations, then back again like a washing machine. Buried in the foam was the admission I had been refusing to perform for. He only did it because everything was so expensive and we're a team. He said, authorized user, like it's a magic word that turns forgery into courtesy. I didn't reply. A confession aimed at avoiding consequences isn't a truth. It's a tactic. The vendor side of the story was the only clean part. The venue sent an itemized statement explaining how the deposit would be allocated. Staff time already spent, materials that cannot be returned, a chargeback prevention reserve they maintain because, apparently, weddings are where both love and cards go to do dumb things. The caterer sent a similar breakdown and, quietly, a voucher offering me a small credit toward any future event hosted in your own name. The photographer shared a zipped folder of the room as it was. Light, flowers, chairs aligned. I opened it like a bruise and didn't bleed. There is a version of the story where I chased a courtroom victory. That is not this version. I wanted paper that protected my name, restitution that pointed the bill at the person who made it, and distance. The detective talked me through a path that looked like accountability without spectacle. A restitution agreement through the civil channel, plus a misdemeanor plea for the identity misuse if the DA signed off. No exact labels here because jurisdictions name things differently. In human terms, pay it back, own it on paper, and don't do it again. If he failed any part, the suspended storm becomes weather. The bank's recovery team negotiated the dollars with him. I didn't have to be in the room or write a single demand. Recovery notice. Balance reversed to victim. Liability transferred to responsible party. Repayment schedule established. Failure to comply will result in legal escalation. Elaine tried to call me when she saw the numbers. I didn't pick up. I sent one sentence by email. All future contact in writing through counsel only. It's the only sentence that has ever worked on people who think access is a right. Socially, the fallout looked like theater reviewers arguing over a play they didn't watch. A couple of Noah's friends sent, "We don't know what happened, but it's messed up you did that" at the rehearsal notes. Jade screenshotted and archived them under spectators. Mutuals I actually trusted asked for the non-dramatic version. I gave them the two-sentence truth. He opened credit in my name. I protected myself and the vendors. People who need a third sentence weren't going to hear the first two. My own family was quiet. My parents believe that if you don't speak about a problem, the problem will get bored and leave. They sent a food delivery to my building and texted a heart emoji. I thanked them. Later, my mother asked how the refund situation was going. I told her there was no refund situation. There was a contract. She said, "You always have everything in writing," like it was a character flaw and not a survival tool. I did small life things that felt like stitching. I changed my emergency contact at the doctor to Jade, with a note that she is not to authorize anything that touches finances. I rotated security answers to nonsense phrases that are true only inside my head. I locked my credit profiles, then added a routine to check them on the first weekend of every month, the way you water a plant you want to live. I bought a basic fireproof safe for the few documents that still live on paper. I made peace with the idea that care looks like paranoia until it becomes a story about regret. About therapy, I went. Not because I was shattered, but because careful turns to rigid if you leave it alone too long. We made two lists again. On one side, what I owe the world: honesty, clean paper, the courage to say no. On the other, what the world keeps trying to charge to me: silence, image management. Just this once. The lists didn't get shorter. I got clearer. What happened to Noah? The short version is that gravity found him. The recovery plan followed his paychecks. Without the fairy dust of a wedding to wave at, the sympathy market crashed. He took a job that exists in the real world. The detective's "fix it or it fixes you" line turned out to be less of a threat and more of a weather report. Elaine posted a long, foggy paragraph about forgiveness and women who weaponize anxiety. People in her circle clicked hearts. People in my circle forwarded it to a folder called Noise. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I did, however, answer one person, the venue manager. He emailed a month later to check in. No marketing hook, just a human note. I hope you're okay. I told him the truth. I wasn't okay. I was free, and the difference matters. He wrote back that policies protect people when their mouths shake. I printed that one and put it with the veil in its box. This part will make some of you roll your eyes, but here's the human after the spreadsheet. I started running again. Not to change my body. To remind my nervous system that some stress ends with a finish line and water. I called my grandmother's best friend, the one who always tells the family history with the boring parts left in, and asked for stories that don't include men who think love is permission. She sent me 3 postcards full of recipes and mischief. I changed my apartment layout so the table where I'd arranged the evidence folder now faces a window. It's not symbolic. It just feels better. Did I ever speak to Noah face-to-face again? Yes, once, at a meeting my lawyer suggested so we could close the loop on the property exchange and confirm, on paper, that neither party would pursue the other for wedding costs beyond what the contracts already handled. He looked smaller and older and still very good at arranging his features to look like the person he thinks you want to forgive. He apologized in the way people apologize when the word has to travel through pride to reach air. I said, I accept that apology, and I don't accept this future. He asked if there was any version of us that could survive this. I said there was a version that could have avoided it, and he had already chosen against it. We signed, we stood, we left. No scene, no hug, no speech about lessons learned. Closure isn't a poem. It's paperwork. What did I learn that might help someone else? That emergency contact is not a love language. That security questions are not memories. They are keys. Don't leave them under the mat. That the person who tells you after the wedding is also telling you never, unless you're too tired to fight. That the quiet work of documenting, freezing, adding a clause, and refusing to be rushed looks cold next to a bouquet, until it looks like safety. Did I ruin the vendor's month? No. I saved it, if anything. Their notes made that clear. They get stiffed when people perform wealth for photos and settle the invoice with chargebacks and tears. The no fraud clause is now a template the venue asked to keep, with the serial numbers filed off. If any good came of this for strangers, it's that a paragraph in plain English might keep someone else's staff from being conscripted into a crime with a dessert course. And because many of you always ask, am I dating? I'm doing something better first. I'm practicing being a person who can sit in a quiet room without needing a crisis to feel alive. That's new. I have coffee with friends without leaving my phone face up. I say no to plans when my body says it. If something soft happens later with someone kind, it'll be built on boring truths that don't need a clause to stand. I'll end with the line that kept me steady when the guilt machine got loud. Paperwork is what people use when honesty fails. It's not romantic, but it's merciful. It held the line when I couldn't. Turned the lights on. And once the lights were on, the room was exactly what it was all along.